Are you tired of all the dating games, rules, and societal norms that make falling in love confusing and stressful?
Then join us as we ditch the script and empower you to establish healthy, conscious relationships.
This weekly podcast breaks down popular dating reality television and educates you on healthy versus toxic dating habits.
I'm Brianna, a licensed therapist.
And I'm Alex, a trauma-informed and certified narcissist recovery coach.
Are you ready to ditch the script?
Oh my God.
I love it.
Hello.
Hi. I was just throwing a fit because that's what I was doing. Because my timer starts so late and sometimes I get nervous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. That
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
But
We'll see if it's a
we make it
problem.
happen. I don't think it will. We're Gucci.
Um, yeah.
Hi.
Are we Gucci?
We're half Gucci. We're
Yeah, we're
knockoff Gucci.
Gooch. We're Gooch. We're
Yeah,
Fooch.
we're
Fake
Fooch.
Gucci. Fooch.
I am on the back end of a cold, everybody.
Everyone send virtual soup vibes.
Virtual soup healing vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm better. I still just have like a little bit congestion,
It is at
not
a time
fully
like this.
breathable.
It's at a time like this that I wish I could like Uber Eats a 2J's matzo ball soup to you.
Oh my God, we don't even have 2Js out here. I
I
literally
know you don't.
forgot 2Js existed until you
I
said
know.
that.
I
That's a
know.
blast from the motherfucking past.
Yeah, what
Stop.
an absolute Florida staple.
It is a Florida
2J's.
staple. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I
Do you
forgot about
do you have any like
2Js.
specific memories of 2J's?
No, not anything specific. Just I can hear the words of my mother being like, "Yeah, 2Js. We're going to 2Js," or like that, like just like, "Yeah, 2Js. See you at 2Js. We'll pick it up from 2Js." Like that. Just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Just like
like
contextually relevant.
yeah. But I don't have any like specific. Is that where? That's not the black and white cookie place, is it? Where I learned I hated black and white
I
cookies.
don't
I
know.
don't know
Did
if
you ever
that's the
did you
place.
ever eat at Twin Bagels in Boca?
No,
That was a
or at
staple
least not
for
that I
us.
can remember. Einstein bagels, yeah.
Yeah, Einstein's we had an Einstein bagel in college.
Yo, you
That
know
was
what?
disgusting. Hmm?
I just remembered, sorry.
It's
That one
okay.
building on Palmetto, that was like
Mm.
a Krispy Kreme, and then it was a
Mm.
Taco Bell, and it like
Hmm.
it keeps flipping. Like I'm gonna Google Earth this shit right now and figure out
Yeah, can
what.
you find out but is it the Krispy Kreme that was by your house and we used to like wait for the bagel sign to I mean the bagel sign
100%.
the hot
Yeah.
the hot donut sign to be up?
Yeah, it's that one.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, we're gonna go to Publix because I know it's still there. Publix, Palmetto.
While you're doing this, I'm just gonna let people
Yeah,
know that like if I'm perusing a dating app and there's like when someone's profile doesn't give you
it's a
anything to
Taco
work
Bell.
on. It's of course it's a Taco Bell. That's sad. It's not a Krispy Kreme anymore.
I feel like that happened. Whoa, and the Kmart turned into a Spirit of Halloween. And there's a Chick-fil-A in that plaza now too. Shut up.
Whoa.
But Pinch a Penny Pool is still there. Oh my God.
Still
It's just
still
it's
rocking.
it's weird how like storefronts like in plazas that are like a staple, especially because that was like right outside my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Wild. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. Well, I was vamping. I was like like context vamping, but um when someone's dating profile doesn't give you anything to work with, like they haven't really answered any prompts and like there's
Yeah,
nothing
like my
to
boyfriend currently
he didn't have like a whole lot to yeah, but he also had like a he
did
but
it.
okay, but I'm gonna advocate for Andy right now because Andy was like he had sorry, I just name dropped his name. My bad. I don't
It's
know if we've
okay.
ever done that before. Is that
We
okay?
have it. That's okay. Yeah. Love you,
Uh
babe.
sorry, Andy. Anyway, But I also know that there was like a mirror picture of him in like was it like a
A
penguin
penguin
onesie.
suit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, see,
No,
but
I
that's
broke all the fucking rules on that. Actually, we could talk about that because it's funny how I swiped right. I remember vividly how this happened.
but that's an example of a picture that at least garners some sort of conversation starter.
Yeah, he answered one prompt that I thought was funny. And but nothing else. Like there was nothing in his bio, like literally
Yeah.
just pictures. And I shit on him for this at first. But when I was swiping, I started doing this fun little game where I was like, I'm not going to read the profile. Because here's how I coach like with dating and this.
Yeah.
I'm like, you want to optimize your profiles to speak to people very specifically. So like on my profile, it was like 420 friendly, tapping and meditating, want to be
Mhm.
Ahsoka for Halloween, like, which you're not even gonna know what that is unless you're a Star Wars fan, right? So it's like I'm
Yeah.
literally like only the people who get me are gonna swipe right on me because of how specific my profile is. Likewise, I
Mm.
teach people to look for specific profiles because if someone puts that much effort into their profile, they're probably on there for the right reasons. But
Mm.
then I was
Mhm.
like doing experimental things, and I was like, you know what? We're gonna play with our intuition and just swipe on the first picture. Like I'm not even going to let myself scroll down. I'm just going to look at their first
Mm.
picture and be like, yes or no, what does my gut say? That's how I
Mm.
swiped right on Andy. And then
And
what's
so you all
funny
saw all the stuff after.
after. And so that's why like we matched and I was
Oh.
like, I'm like, why would I, like, cuz I don't think I like basically we matched and I started looking and I was like, why would I ever swipe right on this guy? Like he's done nothing like on his profile except the very last prompt was like, will it was like the we'll get along if, and he was like, if you're out of Leonardo DiCaprio's age range, and that had me rolling on the floor laughing
Yeah,
because
that's pretty
like
funny.
that is so funny. Apparently he got in trouble from it by another match, like they were like that's ages, but anyway,
Oh
um
my god. Fucking
but
spare
that was it
me. I'm
because he
so
had
annoyed with us.
like the mirror selfie. I was like, no, I would automatically swipe left on that. So I'm really glad I didn't, but
Yeah, but it was
freaking
like a silly
hilarious.
mirror selfie. It
It
was
was,
literally
but
in a penguin onesie.
yeah, I guess I'll let it slide.
But to me that's irony, you know?
Oh,
That's doing
100%.
that's a
Yeah.
mirror pick ironically. It's
Yeah.
the
If it's
it's the
serious,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
If it's an unironic mirror picture, then we're in troubies. We are
Yeah.
in troubies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when a this is so like a little bit of that kind of profile, but like maybe even less of a grab is someone who you're clearly just attracted to and
Oh, yeah.
nothing else is doing anything for you other than the fact that you think that they're hot. So my go-to in those situations is I'll ask them like what their pub sub order is, and then
Oh, I love that.
I'll like fake judgment, like a little playful negging, or I'll be like actually I recently asked that and someone replied they were like a chicken tender sub, which had they continued a conversation with me, they would have known that that too is my order. Sometimes I'll just
That's
play
Sam's
up like,
order.
oh, interesting, it's mine.
I'm
And
London
sometimes
port
I'll
and
just
cheddar,
play up,
bitch.
what is it? A London port cheddar?
Yeah.
What the
London
fuck is a
port.
London port?
London port roast beef is roast beef that's been roasted in port wine.
Okay. The way in which you have always been a roast beef hoe for as long as I've known you is insane.
Oh,
You remember one
it's
time
so
we
true.
went to go, this is a memory that's like deeply locked into my brain, but one time we went to go visit your dad at work. I think your dad took us to his office and we
Oh
had
yeah.
a French dip sandwich.
Yeah. From
And that was,
the cafe there. It fucking
yes,
slaps. Best French dip
slaps.
I've had in my life.
That was the first French dip I'd ever had in my life. I was like, I'm sorry, you want me to take this meaty sandwich, which I love red meat and I love all things steak adjacent. So like it wasn't a hard sell, but it was like we're dipping it in this like
Au jus.
yeah, sauce, like thin steak juice. What are we doing? It was absolutely slamming.
I love that. I love that that's a core
Yeah.
memory of
Oh,
ours.
it's not even one that I like. If you said it, I wouldn't have been like, oh my God, I forgot about that. I think about it frequently.
You want to know what's a core memory of mine that I recently shared with my boyfriend? I don't know how this
Oh,
even came
what?
up, but I was like, Brie was here for that. like the first like underwear pic I ever sent to a guy. You were literally in the
What?
room while I was taking
What?
while I was taking this photo. We were like, how old were we? Like 15 at the time? Oh Jesus, I can't believe I'm admitting this on this
Yeah.
podcast, but
Okay.
it's true.
Wait. Where did you take
We
it?
were
Where was
in my
I?
bedroom. We were just in
Okay.
my bedroom, and you were like on the computer, probably fucking around with MySpace or Facebook.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably like Facebook was new. And yeah, and I'm over there trying to flirt with a boy. And like, I remember I had like a tank top and like some boy short, like undies
Yeah.
on. And I remember just being like, is this cute enough? Like, to you. I was like, is this good enough? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes you say these stories
And
and
you're like, I
there's
don't remember.
no, a little bit of that, but also it's always like it's like you are in the you're like in heat basically. You're in your like adolescent heat and I happen to be there and these stories I'm like, was I this influence? Is this my influence? Like what's what's happening? Like you say them and I'm like, I probably sound like I've corrupted your entire childhood.
No, I don't think that. I think you were the savior of my entire childhood, honestly.
We saved each other. We know this. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I was endorsing a lot of like early sexual behavior, I think. When
But I
I
was
wasn't that
so
sexual of a
sexually
person.
repressed. I know, but
Yeah.
I was in this really weird environment where I was so sexually repressed while simultaneously watching my family not be sexually repressed. Like I walk, you
Mm.
know, I'm not going to say that on the podcast, but
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
just
yeah,
say like it was very visible, okay everybody? So
yeah.
my little child's
Oh,
brain was like, which lane is the right lane? Because I'm being
right.
told to like not kiss anyone till I get to the altar for marriage, while
Yeah.
simultaneously watching these people, my parents, like not be anything close to that in their
Right.
lives. And
Yeah.
so it was just like this
Very
really weird.
contradicting.
Yeah, and so I think I was trying to find my way, and like, yeah, you very much introduced me to social media. I would not have been on social media if it wasn't for you, period. Like,
Mhm.
that's huge. But the other thing, God, my life would have been so weird if you weren't in it.
Mm.
But the other
Oh,
thing is I think
ditto.
I was like I was finding like a middle ground with between like with you around, and I felt safe with you
Yeah.
around to like explore those
Right.
things.
Right.
And so
That's making more sense. It's sort of like you were like, "Is this cute enough?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Send it."
yeah, like literally that was your reaction. I don't even know if
Yeah.
you looked at it. You were like, "Yeah, it's fine."
Sounds great.
I think you
As
said
opposed
something more along the lines like you're a cute girl in her underwear. Like, what guy is going to be like, that's not
Oh,
cute enough? I
okay.
think that was like more like what you said. Like, what? He's going to
That
be happy with whatever you send
that
him.
sounds like me. That sounds like me. But you know
Yeah.
what I'm appreciating right now is like the fact that you may not have had that even among your peers our age at that time. Like of some of the people that you would hang out with that were like your age group were very much part of your like church facilities, you
Yeah.
know? And so you like my response is obviously so I'm like do what you got to do. Like I love it. I'm here for it. Like yeah, this is not going to upset anyone. This person's going to
Yeah.
love receiving this. Like kudos to them. Congrats to them. And that may have felt maybe in its own way kind of radical to get that kind of support as opposed
Yeah.
to someone being like, why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think also just boosting my confidence,
Mm,
Like, it
hmm
was just, anyway, so many
It's my
weird
entire
random
journey.
memories.
I
Yeah.
know.
We
We
have,
really just like went down a ride, went down
we
a
did.
journey.
But I'm so thankful it was with you. Like,
Yeah.
like what's weird about our stories, they sound so outlandish, but like we're such normal, whatever that means,
Yeah.
humans. We turned out okay. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
we could have gone down like a really shitty slope, and we
Yeah.
didn't. We like
No.
kept each other sane.
Good people, uh appropriately responsible, appropriately
I
irresponsible.
like that. I like that.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
true. Like we never did
Yeah.
anything that was like, oh my God, we're going to jail.
And I
yet,
know that
you
we've
know?
talked, yeah, no, I hope never, but we've talked about this before, but I do reflect on it a lot. Like it could have been weirder and worse, because we were left kind of to our own devices. But I do think that you and I like grounded each other in a really like good and like wholesome way, like safe, appropriate for
Yeah.
our age development exploration of things, and
Yeah.
everything else was sort of like really good natured, because a lot of other people our age were doing kind of crazy shit and we were just like scootering around on razor scooters in the rain.
For real. Like, it was so wholesome with, like, a
Yeah,
sprinkle of spice,
a
you know?
sprinkles, and again typical for like young adolescent girls.
Yeah.
Normal stuff.
Yeah. So funny.
Good
Anyway,
for us, we
thank
raised
you.
each other.
We sort of did. I mean, you definitely raised me. I feel like you raised me more than I raised you.
I
And
actually
thank you.
disagree, because I think in
Oh,
many ways
okay.
you kind of, well, I think in many ways you raised yourself, and there were
I
things
understand
that
that.
you there were things, and I come from the experience of being raised, and I think when you and I met, we raised each other in different ways. Like you definitely taught me a lot of things about being independent that I did not know before we met.
I have mixed feelings about that, if I'm being honest.
Mm, yeah, do you?
Yeah, oh my God, I'm getting a little emotional.
Oh,
This is tender. This is a tender
I'm
spot.
sorry. Is it a
No,
bad or a sad?
I wouldn't say bad. It's like what that tells me about me, hearing that your
Mm,
experience of me is a 11 to 15, 16-year olds, like all those years
mm,
we spent together, is like that's
mm,
like, and there's a part of me that's like, yeah, cool, I was a motherfucking badass. I have been a badass since I
mhm,
was a kid,
mhm,
but out
mhm.
of a means of survival. And that's why it's
Yeah,
tender. It's like
yeah,
people weren't around.
yeah. Oh, I love you.
I love you too, you know,
Yeah,
a lot. And I'm gonna
yeah.
be okay.
There is also like in the midst of all of that though, there was like so much silliness and so
Oh my
much
God, yeah.
joy, like true
And so
joy.
much cookie dough.
Yeah, a lot of cookie dough, a lot of like coffee ice cream. This is what I'm saying though. Like you introduced me to things that to me felt very adult, like coffee ice cream. I'd never had coffee ice cream before.
It's the bee's knees. So good.
Anyway, I love you.
Yeah. I love you too. I'm really thankful for you. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I say that a lot. I feel like we say that to each other a lot, but like I don't think words can express the amount of gratitude I feel in my body when I think about
Mm,
our trajectory and like all of the
yeah,
different, because it's just so serendipitous that like
I
we
know.
met and then all this. So I
I
love you
agree.
and thank you universe for providing Brianna for me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's you said that really well, and I echo it honestly, because I think that we are um e- each independently better because of having each
Each
other.
other. So
Yeah.
true. I love
Oh
you.
my God. You guys did not
Are
plan
we
to be
ready?
here.
Are we ready to talk about Gary and who he loves?
I am. This episode was kind of it hit me in feels, and then it also upset me in ways that are just like
So
the
true.
usual stuff.
I'm gonna go grab the tissue box, so vamp for approximately 5 seconds.
Okay. Um, I want to share a bit about like my frustration with the Bachelor Network with
Oh my God,
the
yeah.
senior citizens of the Golden
Oh,
Bachelor.
share.
I just like I feel like they're not doing enough for us in exploring like the authenticity of these people at I just want them to do better at representing people at this stage of life. I felt like they hit it for a moment when they did the talent show and they were like interviewing all of the women, and the women were sort of like,
Whoa.
like this reminded me that we have so many skills and that we're all unique people and that we have so much to give and we have so much life, and people forget that. And I was like, yes, can we
Mm.
expand on that, please? And then the other ways, I feel like we just get this very cut and edited experience of like we were talking about this last episode, but it was just like we'll talk about it, but like the one-on-one with Ellen was just nothing for me. It was nothing. It gave me nothing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think that we could be doing something a little bit cooler and different, but maybe because the show is so limited to the Bachelor franchise formula that it just the formula will not allow for the show to expose really cool sides of these narratives that could be coming to surface.
Yeah. Well, I also like I'm curious because the episode was like 45 minutes long. And usually I feel like they're an hour and a half. Are they not? Am I
Yeah.
like smoking something? Cuz like you're like, yes, probably a
Yes.
little bit of both. But what I meant was like literally I recall these being an hour and a half long and now they're 45 minutes. So what I'm trying to figure out is like the meat and potatoes cuz like I feel like usually on these one-on-ones it takes up the majority of the episode where it's like we see them do an activity and then they go to dinner and there's conversations that come up about their past. But like we're not getting any of that. It's like here's Ellen in a dress and the end. It's like what the
He's like,
fuck? Like
yeah, he's like, will you accept this rose? And she's like, yep.
it was weird. It was just like, so I completely agree. And did you watch the season of The Bachelor, which I don't even know if it should be called that because it was more just like Bachelor in Paradise, but in the mansion with the singing people, like music
No.
for your heart. But do you remember that season where they did that?
No. This is
Oh my
sounding like an
God.
absolute foreign concept.
Oh my God, yeah, they had like several guys and girls who were all like musician and singers like in some way be in the mansion and then they could like pick each other to pair up and like create music with and then they all had to like present a song at the end and like whoever won got like their debut album or some shit like whichever
Wow.
couple but it was all
Wow.
supposed to be like you're supposed to fall in love and find a musical partner. um my point in bringing this up is that I really feel like the Bachelor franchise is reaching to make things different. Like, that's what I'm seeing. It's like what they're usually doing isn't really working for them anymore, I guess. And that's why they're doing these things like Golden Bachelor and the music after your heart and the Bachelor Winter Games and like all this random spin off shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hope that they're feeling that because these other streaming services are exploring with different styles of reality dating
Yeah.
that some of it's flopping. Like the way in which I have no interest in that one, I don't know if it's Are You the One or whatever one is like they can't touch each other. They can't like talk, they can't like
Too
touch
hot
each
to
other.
handle.
Too Hot to Handle. The way in which I have no interest in Too Hot to Handle. The way in which I have no interest in Are You the One. But like Love is Blind is like it's kind of our new Bachelor.
Kind of. Yeah.
People are way more interested in it.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
I agree. Well, I think people are curious about the experiment of love being blind. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. That's
And
true.
so because there's this saying that's like we can't choose who we love, which I'm like, oh, I disagree with that because I think in the end love is a choice. I really do. I
Yeah.
think all of the chemical feelings that we recognize as love are the honeymoon phase and the dopamine of it being a new exciting thing. Which sounds really unsexy, and it is, but it's like when you're looking at relationships for 20 plus years, even 10 plus years, even 5 plus years, like love becomes a choice. Like you choose to stay
Totally.
with someone because all of us
Yeah.
have our imperfections and faults. So it's like, the concept of love is blind, I think is way, and I'm about this, is way more about not letting your what's between your legs pick the person who you're going to see again, like for lack of a better way to put it. Like I think a lot
Hmm.
of people settle in relationships because someone's good looking and not because of the substance. And so I think that's interesting with Love is Blind is can you see through, like can you pick someone who has substance and then allow the attraction to come after that. And some people we've seen it blossom and some people we've seen it crash and burn because they get distracted by other attractive people in their vicinity. So
Uh-huh.
it's like, I think that's why it's more interesting for the masses, personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I feel that way. And it's just the show is a little bit more modern. It's a little bit more updated. They're not afraid to air more like interesting discussions, more relevant discussions to how people are dating lately, whereas The Bachelor kind of wants to continue to keep this fairy tale ambiance, and I'm feeling the fairy tale so thick with the Golden
Say,
Bachelor.
oh my God, you want to know what a note? Oh Jesus, I have a note in here
What?
that talks about the cheesy underscore synth like keyboard music while they're like
Yeah.
making out, and it's like do 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 do, and I'm like, oh my God, I just want to throw up right now.
But they
Like it's
always do
so
it.
much.
They always do it, but for some reason, it's really feeling like it's just laying it on thick with these older folks. Um, and my issue is not with them. My issue is
No.
not with seeing older people date. My issue is not with getting to know uh, older, participants of the show and their stories. I want more of it. I feel like we're not
Yeah.
getting enough of it. That's my issue.
Agreed.
Um, but okay, so let's go back a tick. We'll get back to Ellen and her one-on-one. But what we have is I think there's like what, 12 women left? It's very quick.
Yeah. Sure. Something like that. I
Something like
honestly
that.
don't know.
They get told that they're gonna all have a group date in which everyone's gonna perform a small bit for as part of a talent show. Now, that
Wait, can we
sounds
back up?
what?
I
Yeah.
want to talk about the Askin group really quick that
Oh, let's talk about the
presents themselves
Askin
at
group.
the start. So Kathy, which I just want to harken back to last week's episode where Brie called it and she was like, Kathy's
I
going to be a
told you.
Karen.
I
And
told you
yeah,
she's gonna be a
yeah. And
problem.
this week we just see that come to fruition. But it's so true. It's like, you know what I think is so interesting doing the line of work that you and I do where we like study behavior and patterns and like
Mm,
personalities and kind of just like see the connection and like again the patterns.
hmm.
Like we can see clips of these people and be like, I bet and then
Yeah,
they're pretty accurate. Go us.
yeah, yeah.
Um so Kathy is talking about the Askin group, which stands for April. I forget who the S is.
Susan,
Kathy
Susan,
and Nancy. Susan.
Susan.
Thank you. And this literally reminded me of elementary school,
It's a
like
click.
girls on the playground. Yeah, it's like she's being Regina George with her group, and it's like you can't sit with us type vibes.
You know what was so interesting about that though is like that they formed the group because they thought that this was going to be helpful in like they were like, we need a group to establish how to show support with one another, which created this exclusionary experience that really just formed a shit stirring, gossip festering cesspool
Yeah,
of some of our worst qualities, and
for
it's not doing
real.
them any favors.
Not in the slightest. So yikes. Just to say the least. Then we have the talent show, which I have an eye roll emoji by the talent show. Because I just think this is something that's done so much. And like I think what ended up happening was really beautiful
Yeah,
personally. Like I think it was great. But I'm really over this like performative thing that they make every season. Some these people are doing something like this, and it's just it I think it you want to know why it bothers me a lot. I think it, especially with the Bachelor dynamic, like meaning it's the women performing, it instills that in us more. Like we already
mm,
have that from
mhm,
growing up and the conditioning from society on like porn and like how we need to be performative in bed, suppose, you know what I
yeah,
mean, like all these little
yeah,
things and like modeling and fashion and like
yeah.
what being a woman really means and all this shit. And so I feel like it only a talent show in this setting only makes it more of like we are
Just like
continuing to
it,
hit the hammer on the
yeah,
head or the
it
nail on the head with
amplifies
like
it.
perform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it amplifies it, and you can tell that like someone like Joan was feeling that pressure. She was like,
Jesus.
I don't have a performance element to provide, and so we'll
Yeah.
get to her poem and stuff.
Yeah.
But
So I have a list of what everybody did.
oh, you want to run through it? I started to make a list, and then it kept moving too quickly, and I gave up.
Yeah. So I did a rapid fire one, and I probably missed some people, but it's like Kathy did push-ups, Faith sang, Sandra did comedy, Ellen said the word vagina. April made a joke about Botox.
Uh-huh.
Leslie danced, and Kathy's face had me rolling on the floor laughing when Leslie was dancing.
Yeah.
And then she made a baked good and gave him a kiss. And then Joan recites an awesome poem.
Yeah, Joan's poem was really sweet, and I thought that, like, what a good idea for someone who didn't know how to, like, do some
For
star
real.
quality
Just lean
performance,
into it even more.
and her
Yeah.
poem was awesome.
Yeah, it
It was really
was.
good. It was
It
really
was
good.
very honest. Yeah.
Okay, before we move on to Joan, I wanted to ask your opinion about Leslie.
Mhm.
So, Leslie dances, which makes sense because, like, let me ask you this. I think that it would have been totally relevant for someone who's like for someone who's known to be a performer in one element of their life to go up and try to do something else. It makes sense why they would do their skill, but I also think that it's interesting if someone's like, I know that I'm a dancer, everyone knows that I'm a dancer, but I'm going to do hand puppeting, you know? Like something
Yeah.
like a little bit different, a little bit random. Do you think that if you had to do a talent show on in a setting like this, would you have picked dance or would you pick something else?
I think I would have forfeited. You know what? This brought up seriously. I just don't think I would have gone up. I hate this
Wow.
kind of shit. I hate this kind of shit. Um,
That's
and
surprising.
if I'm being really honest, I actually paused it and sat with a little bit of epiphany that came up for me literally watching this show.
Is it okay to
Um,
share?
yeah, if you want me to.
I would love to hear
I
your epiphany.
so so for those of you who don't know or don't really know what Bree's alluding to, I used to dance, um, and sing and act, and I still love to dance for fun. I still love to sing for fun, but it's not something that I like doing for others
Mm,
necessarily.
mhm.
Um, because what the wound that came up is I was exactly that. I asked myself, like, would you dance? Like, what would you do? And I was like, I would literally want to disqualify and crawl under a hole. Okay, why?
Mm,
And the wound that came up is like, I'm only allowed to do those things if given permission, like if told to do those things. So
mm,
it's like, this is why improving or talent shows is so hard, because it's like people aren't paying to like show up at a ballet, right? Or a tap show. Like they're just there, and it's like, why do I need to like demonstrate my talent to people who aren't here to necessarily see my talent? You see what I'm saying?
mm,
So this is bleeds over into like the karaoke thing and this talent show thing. It's like, unless someone
mm.
specifically is like, no, like I
I
want to
came
see
here for
you do
Alex.
X, I came
Mhm.
here for this performance. And not necessarily me,
Mm.
but like even when I was in a ballet company, it was like people in the audience are paying to see us dance, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that's what they're here for. So it's like, unless given that kind of permission of like, this is the purpose of this, it doesn't feel like I'm allowed to take up space in that way.
Interesting.
So even though
Huh.
this talent show, it's performative, but not from a place of like my skills, like what you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like that. So
Right.
personally, I would want to do something, and this is actually the note that I gave for Leslie, and I think this is where I would land. I would want to do something that represents the context of what we're here for. So it's
Right.
like yes, could I go out there and do an awesome dance of some sort?
Yep.
Totally. I could. Could I go out there and sing a song and probably do pretty great? Yeah,
Yes.
totally. But I'm not there to show off my dancing or my singing. I'm there to supposedly fall in love with this guy.
Right.
And so I would want to do something more along the lines of what Joan did, right? Or
Mm.
maybe like a comedy sketch on like the biggest failures of my past relationships and like what I've learned from them, right? Like I thought that might be
Mm.
funny. Like, here's how my
Mhm.
most unhealthy relationship impacted me, and like put a comedy twist on it to make it like light and funny and like haha,
Yeah.
you know? Or a
Yeah.
poem. I really do. I think I would have landed there.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, going back to Leslie, which is what put us
Yeah.
down this whole thing,
Yeah.
is like she goes into it saying, I was a professional dancer. I'm not nervous. I'm just going to dance. I get that line of thinking because it's your
Yeah.
comfort zone, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, this is what I know. This feels comfortable. I can do this
I can
easy
do
and
it
kill it.
well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the thing is that at the end, when Leslie doesn't get chosen for the date, even though she killed it, she's like, at the end of the day, I'm never chosen, and I'm not just some sexy dancer. I can be more, is like what she was like saying in her confessional. But she didn't lead with that. She led with sexy dancer.
I know.
And this is what goes back to what I was just saying about the societal conditioning. It's like we are literally told, and from a young age, and thankfully we're starting to get away from this messaging, but so many women are preached to like, men value you for your sexuality and that's
Be
it.
a
And so
sexy
we
dancer.
be a sexy dancer, like lead with the sex, and that's going to get your man. And it's not fucking true. It'll get you a kind
Mm.
of man who will use you for that and then piece the F out. But it's
Yeah.
not going to get you a guy who loves you for you and wants to meet your needs and like build that camaraderie and that partnership that'll last a lifetime, where you see the depth of each other. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that is not going to happen from a sexy lap dance. It's going to
Yeah.
happen with something from like what Joe owned, which is the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel personally I would have landed on something that was more of context for the talent show, the performance I'm doing, right?
Yes. I'm really glad that I asked you because your answer sort of clarified why Leslie's dance, as skilled as it was, especially compared to some of the other performances, didn't work because, to your point, it wasn't about who's the best dancer and who gives the best crowd
Yeah.
engaging performance. It was really like supposed to be about, yeah, like get on, do a talent, do a thing, but also like use this opportunity to connect with why you're here. And Joan did that sort of as a default because she was like, I have nothing else.
Yeah.
And Leslie didn't. Maybe Leslie could have gotten away with this if she did some sort of interpretive dance for her feelings about Gary, or if
Right.
Leslie like again gave a monologue about her experience with dating, kind of similar to what your idea was about like jokes and history and love. Like Leslie's probably she dated Prince, for Christ's sakes. I'm sure that there's things that she's learned,
Supposedly. I don't know if that's
supposedly,
true though.
allegedly. Um, but I'm sure that there is things that she's learned about her experience dating that leaves her with the feeling of never being chosen. That was a wound we saw. That was a
Huge.
wound.
Yeah.
And don't get me
Any
wrong, I feel that wound. That's a wound I have, you know? Which made me sad that she's in her 60s and she's like still struggling with that wound. That bummed me out. Um, don't be such a bummer, Leslie. So I joking, I'm joking. She's allowed to have those feelings. And so I just was like, I just thought it was interesting that she was like, I'm never chosen. I want people to see me more than just a sexy dancer. But like, babe, you
Yeah.
picked sexy dance for your
Yeah.
thing, for
Yeah.
your
And
talent.
so this is what this, if you guys who are listening aren't watching, but you identify with what we're saying, go and watch this episode. It's week 3. Because the
Yeah.
reason that I really wanted to highlight this, and I have a whole paragraph about the Leslie thing, is because this is a perfect example of someone not recognizing how they're contributing to their own pattern,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And so it's like she's sitting here very honestly and vulnerably telling the camera, like, I'm not chosen and I can be so much more than just a sexy dancer. But when you lead with sexy dancer, that's what you're going to get. Like, that's what you're going
Yeah.
to see, you know? That's
Yeah.
what people see. So
Yeah.
highlight the other parts and then bring the sexiness in, because going back to what I said a few weeks ago on the show, and I will say it again, sex is icing on the cake. It's like, it's something that, I hate to use the word reward, but like, it's something that isn't the foundation of the relationship. It's a perk to the relationship. It's not
Mm-hmm,
going to sustain a relationship. And so
mm-hmm.
again, like, what will sustain a relationship is the vulnerability, and the sex is like something to be earned. It's something to strive for, not something to just give out willy-nilly hoping that that's going to keep them interested, because it
Yeah.
never will, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Leslie.
Joan
We could
wins with her awesome poem. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we can all learn from Leslie because I think that'll many of us see ourselves when we're sort of like, why isn't dating working? Like,
Yeah.
it's sometimes that. I was reflecting on a little bit of that this morning, and I haven't fully rounded out my thoughts. But when I fully realize my own thoughts about that, I will share them.
Okay.
Okay, Joan. So Joan gets picked from the show, from the talent show, and then they go on their lovely one-on-one experience, and we got more depth out of that than any other one-on-one we've seen so far. Personally, that was
Agreed.
my thought. What do you think?
I completely agree, and I think they gave us more meat and potatoes because of what happens next. Like, they wanted us to feel
Yeah,
that as much as they did, which I think is kind of fucked. It's like,
yeah,
honestly, I don't the person that Gary picks, I don't think they've highlighted yet. I think they're like keeping her running in the background because we've only seen him truly connect with Joan, and then what happens next happens, which we'll get to in a second. And other than
Wait.
that, right?
That's such an interesting theory. I wonder if they gave us more, then we would see a clear front runner and it would just be blown for the like the arc of the show.
Yeah.
I thought it was just because they needed a lot of naps, so they weren't doing like the big date and like a dinner later. And
Oh
so I
my
thought they were just like
god.
giving us boring.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know what? To your point, they wanted us to feel something, and feel something I did. When things
Same.
with Joan and Gary like went down with their dinner, like I was really like, oh my God, these two people like could really be together. I
Yeah.
feel
Same.
like they're a great match, and they're both leaving feeling very seen, very heard, very held, very, very respected, very positive.
Supported.
Yep,
Yeah.
optimistic about the future. They have a lot in common, but they're not joining in like a trauma bond. They're coming from a place of experience and a place of like, I see you, you see me. Do we see each other? You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I do.
and then we learn, or Joan learns the next day. Well, we learn that Joan like helps out with her daughter's baby, so her grandchild, a lot in like the child raising and rearing, I guess. And the baby's probably pretty young. And Joan left and kind of took a risk in not being so local and not being around so that she could be on the show. And then her daughter got in touch and was like, I'm like, I guess the vibe is like daughter's having a hard time without mom, without Joan.
Yeah.
And so Joan was like, I gotta go. Deuces.
So it sounded like the pregnancy was a high risk pregnant. She didn't use those words, but like the C-section and things taking turn for worse. I might be in projecting my own experience with my sister because when Sterling was born, she was a preemie, emergency
Yeah.
C-section, blood transfusions, like for both my sister and the baby. Like there was a lot
Yeah.
going on because it was really scary. So,
Yeah.
and then the baby was in the NICU for several weeks after. So that was kind of the vibe. Like that's how I was interpreting it because she kept mentioning like she had to have a C-section. She had to have a C-section. It wasn't a normal birth. Like those were the words that Joan was
Yeah.
using. So I was interpreting it from like either her daughter or her kid, like or the granddaughter or grandchild. Something's like not going well. Like not.
It
She said
needs
it's not
it
getting
needs
better.
additional support. Yeah, it needs
Yeah.
more support.
And so I totally understand Joan leaving. So did
Yeah, me
Gary.
too. Me
And
too.
it crushed me when Joan was like, I feel like I know I'm doing the right thing, but I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing for us. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, like that. It did feel shitty like that because it was like they had a really great kickoff to something that could be wunderbar. And then, like,
Oh,
literally
oh, German.
the next morning, she's like, I gotta go. So
Yeah.
that sucked. Yeah, but that was calculated on the editing team's part 100% to get us to feel some kind of way.
I'm
So,
tired of being manipulated.
yeah. This is where I have the note the sappy music in the background kills me.
Yeah. I'm
Oh, okay,
tired.
wait.
I'm too fragile to have my emotions be played with. What?
Yeah, it is. It's a thing. It's like but that's why we go back. That I mean, we partially are. Let's be real, you guys. I would not be watching this show if it wasn't for this
I
podcast
know.
at this
I
point
might
in life.
actually I might be watching just out of
But
curiosity.
as a young, excuse me for blowing my nose. As a young early 20s gal, I fell for this shit so hard. Okay, but here's my next note. I low-key feel like I'm watching someone play The Sims. It's like Ellen tries on dresses, swap, 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 because she's like, this dress, this dress, this dress, and then all of a sudden it's like Ellen enters room, crowd applause. Like
Yeah.
it was just so like whiplash. Like none
Yeah.
of the talking about what she liked or didn't like about the dresses. It was literally just like pose, pose, pose.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was really shitty.
I know. Also so funny to get a Michael Costello cameo on The
I
Bachelor.
didn't know who he was. Did you?
So yeah, I do because for my Project Runway girlies, he was on season 8 of Project Runway,
Okay.
and he did not win, but he did really well in the competition, and he has a really successful clothing line, and he like works with Revolve and makes a lot of dresses
Cool.
for like plus size women that like look absolutely fucking fire. As
Sick.
far as him as like a person individually, I don't know, but the work that he
Cool.
does, pretty nice, pretty good. And that
That's
dress that
awesome.
she picked, that was a beautiful fucking dress. She looked
It was.
amazing.
She did look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, all the ones that we saw quick glimpses of were nice. I kind of like the first one the best, the dark like maroon wine color, only
Mm,
because she has such light skin and hair that it was like a good contrast for me personally. But
yeah.
yes, the pink one she chose was also very Elwoods.
Yeah,
Very cute.
very, very Elwoods in like the Breakers.
Her prime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, is it time to
Bef-
talk about Teresa and Kathy?
okay,
Oh,
before we go there, we really just have to wrap up the fact that Ellen's like bit was so short that we have nothing else to say. And that's really the
yeah.
tea.
Like we didn't get a dinner combo like we got with Joan and Gary.
No, they literally like she was like, "Wait, what was your wedding day like?" Cuz she's like trying to take an interest in him, and not just him, but like his loving adoration for his
Yeah.
previous relationship, and he was like, "It was a blur."
Yeah.
And
That
then
was
next thing
50 years ago, Suppler.
and then they were talking about how like poor he was while they were young and freshly married. And next thing you know, he was like, "Ellen, would you like a rose?" And she's like, "Yes." And that's literally all we fucking get. So
Yeah.
crazy.
And a little snog, and that's about it.
Just the tiniest of snogs. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, man.
Let's delve into the Kathy and Teresa of it all.
Okay, so we see from one of the Pelco cameras, I think they're called. One of the like cameras that are in the kitchen that like aren't held by a human being. They're just like,
Right.
you know, bird's
Sneaky
eye view
cam.
cameras. Yeah,
Yeah.
sneaky cam. I like our name better. We're gonna call them sneaky
Yeah.
cams.
Sneaky
Um,
cams.
so sorry, I just got a text message from pseudo mom and it super distracted me. Okay,
This
so
moment was brought to you by ADHD.
yep,
If you have
so hard.
ADHD, you will recognize this and you can call your doctor to tell them you are perfectly fine today.
All right, so Teresa, we see on the sneaky cam, is telling Kathy about how great her date was the morning after Joan's amazing date. Now, here's the funny thing is I'm watching this whole interaction and Teresa's like, it was great. I mean, it was like out of this world. And like he talked about the future with me and he talked about traveling with me. And so I'm listening to Teresa and personally, here's my interpretation of it. This girl is so insecure. She is looking
Yeah.
for someone to validate, like, yeah, you had a great time. That's awesome. I literally have
Yes.
listened to this whole conversation being like, she's tripping. She's anxious. She
Yeah.
wants someone to tell her that, yeah, you do have a connection with Gary. That's
Right.
really all she's looking for.
Yep. And unfortunately, she spoke it to Kathy, who, as we mentioned, is a problem amongst the social group of it all. And she runs into Kathy's insecurity because Kathy virtually has no
Has
connection
no connection.
with Gary. So
Yeah.
Kathy's hearing Teresa talk about her connection and Kathy's feeling the impact of it, which gets interpreted as I have more of a connection than you. So like don't forget it. And
Yeah.
that's not what Teresa was saying, but it is what Kathy hears, or what I believe also is like kind of what Kathy decides to hear, because the way in which Kathy spun this interaction and went into full white women victim,
For real.
full white woman victim. Like, she later says, I had a couple daggers thrown at me today.
Yeah.
She described these conversations with Teresa, who's like, my date with Gary was like a fairy tale, as a
Yeah.
dagger.
I know.
I was like, Kathy, let no one run into you at a park somewhere, because you will be the victim so fucking hard and throw all your white woman, like, she's a fucking Karen, dude.
She really is. Like the staple poster child for
Oh my
it.
god, it
Yeah. It's exhausting. Like,
yeah.
so here's what ends up happening. Um Also, side note, like the room of women looks like a room full of sharks. Like as the cocktail out party starts to happen, because of the like intensity between Teresa and Kathy, and then like Kathy going to April, who's in her asking group, and then April making that statement, which then just ups the tension. So April basically announces to all of the women how we should keep our connections about Gary to ourselves and not share, which is like, okay, the producers are literally going to ask us to share though. So,
Wait, I didn't even
okay.
think about that, for one. And for two, like, like, you cannot control the situation this way,
No,
period.
no. Check yourself. Check
Yeah.
yourself. People are going to do what they're going to do. Check your own emotions. Sit with your own emotions. Like, yo. So anyway, because of all that, their eyes be looking black and beady like sharks. They're like who's next?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um but anyway, so yeah, Teresa, so April makes this comment. So Teresa goes to April to be like, was that comment about me? Which I applaud Teresa, because that's like trying to nip it in the bud the most direct way.
Yeah.
And so Teresa goes to April, and April's like, well, I would talk to Kathy about that. Which I'm like, you literally inserted yourself by saying that publicly, and now you're going to tell Teresa that you're not open to talking about it when you just talked about it. Like, I thought that was a little effed. If I was April and chose to do that, which I wouldn't have, but if I did, I would have at least told Teresa, like, yeah, Kathy's a little hurt. I really recommend that you go talk to her, but don't be like, mum's the word, like, go talk to Kathy about it. I thought that was a
Right.
little like, just like, you already got
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
So then, meanwhile, while that convo's happening, Kathy goes and steals Gary
Carrie.
for a little chitty chat. And Kathy starts opening up about her father, and then cries, and then is like, I'm sorry, I've had a rough day. People aren't very nice. And Gary says, you're so positive and upbeat, which I was like throwing up a little bit, because I was
I
like, really,
know.
Gary? Like, that's your
Gary,
perception of her?
you don't know her.
You're
She's
blind. Yeah.
she's looking for shit to start.
Yeah. Also,
You
she
gotta
always
watch out
wears
for that
blue.
one.
That's like her color. So
It's
he's
her
blinded by the blue
color.
dress.
Her
Yeah,
energy is shitty.
it is. It really is. It's so
Mm-hmm.
shitty. And so then Gary asks what's coming up, and she's like, there's just been a lot of meanness. And then she goes, I think that sometimes what you see isn't what actually is, like implying like there's people out there who are, and this is the thing about these types, is that Kathy, and it's so funny because really this is all projection. I'm gonna just go for it. I'm gonna
I
say
I
some shit.
I had the
I'm
same
gonna
thought.
say
I had
some
the
shit.
exact same thought.
Okay, all right. Because there's sometimes where I really feel things, and I try and like give myself another week or two to like before I confirm and vocalize. But I'm just gonna
No,
go out there, and the
fucking
fact
go
that you
for it.
already know what I'm gonna say is great.
Go for
So
it.
Kathy's over there being like, Teresa knows exactly what she's doing, and I'm like, I think you're projecting. I think Kathy knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
And Teresa is literally just like trying to live her best life right now.
And oblivious. She's oblivious.
She's oblivious. And so Kathy starts to tell Gary, there's other people here, and like what they present is nice at first isn't what usually is, like underneath it all, very much implying and setting herself up in this positioning to be the one that's innocent and wholesome and good, right? Like Glenda Good Witch of the North, while the rest are like all flying monkeys and heathens, right? And now the witch hunt is out because that's going to play in the back of Gary's mind, and now he's going to start second guessing people, but not Kathy, because of what Kathy just said. Like, that is the play here. That is the play here. And unfortunately for Gary, he is being misled and falling for it step by step by step. So Gary, seeing this poor woman, gives her the rose. So Kathy now all of a sudden has a skip in her step because she has a rose and she's safe.
And wait,
yeah,
if I were Kathy and I went through all of this, I hope I would feel like, wow, I really just got a pity rose. I absolutely got the sympathy rose because I cried and this person wanted to make me feel better. Like, you didn't earn that. You have a fake ass connection right now.
Yes. It's very superficial. And so I wouldn't be surprised if she continues to play the victim. Like, that seems to be her card.
It's working. It's working for her.
And it's working. Yeah. So it's like, well, I'm just interested to see, this is like how the spice starts to turn on in this show. Like, curious to know where it goes. But then post rose ceremony, which Teresa gets a rose, Edith goes home, which I'm sad about because I think Edith was probably one of the dopest ass women there. Personally.
We learned nothing about her.
We learned nothing about her other than she's perceptive as fuck, which I'm always about, because she called it immediately with the Kathy thing. She was like, we're all just having tension over dating the same guy. Yeah, duh. That's what this show is. And so she knew that the drama unfolding was that, and she stayed out of it. And she also rocked her silver hair, which I was like, gorgeous. Yes, bitch, go off. Like, yeah, beautifully done and styled, and looked dressed really well for her. I know,
a gorgeous woman.
Gorgeous. And then Christina goes home. We didn't see much of her or hear much from her.
I know nothing about Christina.
Literally nothing. I'm sorry, Christina. Wish you all the best.
Sorry, Christina.
So then Teresa pulls Kathy for a talk, and Kathy at first starts to get really accusatory and is like, you know what you're doing. And then here's my note for, I feel like Kathy's projecting. And so Teresa and her eventually get to a place to where they squash it, right? But then Teresa starts to try and befriend Kathy. And this is where it's like, it's one of those concepts where, like, again, Teresa very much, in my opinion, has an anxious attachment style. So now she's feeling it with Kathy. She's like, oh my God, Kathy's like anti me, and I need to like feel good about my connection with Kathy. So now I'm going to try and be friends with her. So she goes up to Kathy and is like, well, was your time with him really good? Like, and she was like, Kathy immediately starts to cut her down by being like, well, I cried most of the time, like trying to be like, and that's your fault, instead of being like, yeah, we had a conversation and like, I ended up getting a rose out of it. So that was fine. And so then Teresa starts to share about her time being like, well, I was crying and then he came up to soothe me. And then Kathy was like, he went to your bedroom? And she was like, yeah. And then Kathy's like, that's the kind of stuff you shouldn't be sharing. And so it was just like and so it continues, it's going to keep continuing. It's just going to keep continuing.
And the thing is like, Kathy thinks that Teresa's trying to like put Kathy in her place, but like, she's not seeing what you called out earlier. One, Teresa's trying to like relate to her, being like, he helped you while you were crying. He comforted me while I was crying too. What a great guy he is.
Yeah.
And maybe we're not giving her enough credit, but again, she's really insecure, and she wants to be able to reassure herself and maybe have someone else reassure her as well, that like Gary cares about her.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my God. And Kathy's like, again, I don't know if she's unaware and dumb to like not notice that, or if she just refuses to believe because it doesn't like fit the narrative that she's clearly using as a tool right now. And she just wants Teresa to stop talking. Teresa's just like, why is everyone so upset with me?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
For real. It's a mess. So what are we ditching?
That.
I feel like I say that one all the time, so I'm not going to say it this week.
What
I'm
was
going to
it? What was it? What
percolate.
was it? What
It was
was
going
it?
to
What
be
was
like,
it?
we're not leading with sex. I feel like I say that one all the time.
We do say that a lot because well, think about it. We are watching reality dating television. There's always going
I
to be
know.
an element of someone leading with sex. Let's pick something else. What would you like? You want me to go first?
Checking your own emotions. Yeah, we're going to ditch being overly concerned with everybody else and what everybody else is saying and feeling, and be way more concerned with what I'm feeling, what, is going on in my internal world over the masses, especially in a setting like this. Because it's just, you're not going to be able to control other people or how what circumstances arise, but you can always control like how you're feeling and how you go about communicating through those feelings and how you process that. And I really feel that people lose sight of it in this setting. I think one, there's just a lack of education on how to do those things, but I think that it would really behoove people.
Yeah.
So not a super sexy answer, but it's true. I'm ditching, and I suggest we all ditch being overly concerned with everybody else and really being way more focused on what am I feeling in this moment and what do I need to communicate about those feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what about you?
I think I'm gonna ditch the I'm gonna ditch the sort of victimizing of self to gain attention from specifically a
Yeah,
male.
for real.
Yeah, like
Guys eat
we
that shit up too. The damsel in
they
distress shit. God, they
do.
eat it up. They gobble that
They
shit up.
do. I did do something a little bit akin to this last night though. I'm not gonna lie. Do you want to hear?
Do what? What
Yeah,
was
okay,
it?
okay. So context is at the bar that I was working at last night that like someone had a wine glass and they knocked it over unfortunately. And so there was a broken
Yeah,
glass and
poor
unfortunately
wine.
the glass got into our cleaning
Well,
station where
oh
we
shit.
like
Okay.
clean the glasses and stuff. So we emptied it and my coworker was cleaning it out. But there's this electronic mechanism that makes the brushes go woo.
Yeah.
And there was like a tiny shard of glass still on it. And I didn't know that. No one would have seen that. It's kind of a dark bar until I used it next. And I got a little like bit of glass in my finger, like tiniest bit. There was this guy sitting at the bar across from me who's like he's cute. Like I'm not like pining for him or anything, but like if I have an opportunity to flirt a little, like I'm gonna use it.
Hell yeah, get your flirt on. Have fun.
And so I just, instead of being like pretending that this wasn't happening and being like you saw nothing, kind of like behind the wings type of thing, I just was starting looking at it and I was like, my finger.
Okay, let's amend this statement. Okay, first of all, finish the story. Where does this go? And then I'm gonna circle back to what I'm gonna say.
Nothing really happens. It got his attention. Like I was, it was just sort of in my mind. I was like, I'm gonna do a little experiment, and I was just looking at my finger, and I was like, ouch. And then he was like, what happened? I was like, there's a little glass in my finger.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like, I don't know what happened to me. But then I was like, restored to myself. I was like, I'm going to live. I'll be okay. And then like,
Yeah.
got it out. And I was like, I'll be
Okay.
right.
I
Yeah, what
love
happened?
this. And the difference between what Brie is talking about and what we're seeing with Kathy is victimizing herself while positioning other people as the enemy. And Brie is not positioning anybody or
No, of course
anything as
not.
the enemy. She is just being her. So like this is the difference, because I will say this. And I teach this with dating and relationships, right? This is a huge thing. There's this lovely hormone called vasopressin that
Tell me about it.
we get doses of it when we help people, and men
Mm,
especially, and men like to help. And I talk about this with my hyper independent women who are like, why do I only date guys who don't do fucking anything in the relationship and I do everything? And 9 times out of 10, it's because they're hyper independent women who, like myself and where we started this episode, from a very young age, have had to do everything for themselves. So they can't ask for help. They don't feel comfortable receiving help. And so they end up being hyper independent in their relationships and being the masculine role. And then because of that, and we turn down, you know, in my past, this used to be me, I turned down help all of the time. The guy ends up becoming super passive and feminine because there's no room for him to take up in helping. So here's how you don't deal with that. You let a guy fucking help you, and you allow his natural hormones to take place where they bond with you when they help. That is what vasopressin does. So let him help. If they're going to be like, let me help you get that piece of glass out of your finger, let me get the cockroach out of the apartment. My guy, God bless his soul, just made me a fucking coffee table because he heard me being like, I wish I had a coffee table. So he went and made one and stained it and everything. So it's like, it's so hot, but it's like, we need to let them help instead of being like, I can't take that from you. No, not me. It's like, just shut the fuck up and let them help. Just
so
let them help.
So what you're telling me is what I should have done is been like, ouch, my finger. And when he was like, oh my God, like, are you okay? Like, what happened? I'd be like, can you look at it? This one?
Basically, yeah. I mean, if you wanted to like get his number, maybe.
Listen,
look,
seeds are being planted.
Seeds are being planted, but
first,
you know,
it starts
at the
with
end
a
of
finger.
The day,
it always starts with a finger.
That could be taken in more ways than one. And we're gonna end it there.
I meant it.
Yes. Before we get into an X-rated show.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, sending you so much light and love. If you love our show, because we know you do, especially if you're listening all the way through, please make sure you leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and let us know that you're listening. Screenshot it, share it to your Instagram story, and tag us at Ditch the Script Pod. And make sure you're following us on the gram and TikTok. Again, our handle is at ditchthescriptpod.com. And that's it. If you want to lurk us some more, you can head to our website, ditchthescriptpod.com, and read all about yours truly, your crazy co-host over here. But other than that, farewell and prosper. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.